but even Israelis, it doesn't matter. Did you ask that at any point?
No, we didn't ask that. We didn't ask that.
You should have called me. I would have. You go on.
You'll see, I mean, obviously, you saw there's two Hussams. There's Hussam when we first started filming, and then Hussam a year later, and there was a huge difference. I was completely shocked at the person he's become. But it was very clear to me why. I mean, on the one hand, we had someone like Zachariah Zubaydi, who he looks up to, the leader of the Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigades, calling him a failure. And he's in jail, and he sacrificed his life, and he's being called a failure because he didn't detonate. So really the only choice he has to say is, oh yeah, I pressed it, but it didn't work. And then on the other hand, he's in jail. Yeah, he's in a juvenile ward, but they all mingled together with the adults during recreational time. And he's obviously being told by the adults what to say when the camera crew comes. This is the line you give him. Another interesting point that wasn't included in the movie was we asked him a lot about, because the Hamas elections were going on when we came to interview her the second time. And what happened was, you know, just like American prisons where we have the prisoners are divided between, you know, there's the African Americans or the Nazis, and the Hispanics and whatnot, the Israeli prisons you have the same, except you have Hamas, Al-Aqsa, Fatah, Islamic Jihad, and those are the gangs. So in each of them, they were all vying for power during the election. So what they would do is they had their kids that were part of the group, and they would tell them, they say, listen, you go call your parents, and you tell them to vote Hamas, so your life is going to be very pleasant here in jail. So Hussam is one of the kids who went and made the phone call to his parents and said, listen, Mom and Dad, I'm being taken care of Hamas there. You vote Hamas, or otherwise they'll find out you didn't vote, and my safety, you know, who knows what's going to happen to me in jail. So that's how they were using these kids for political reasons.
The reason I always like to ask the question, and that, by the way, may be a residue of naivete in me, that good treatment of them, I don't mean of all, but of them certainly would have any impact. That may just be the residue naivete of someone who grew up in New York. And so where naivete is dominant. But I still, it is that part, that human part of me that wonders. I mean, it did happen to German soldiers, for example. German soldiers in World War II were told if caught by the Allies, they would be immediately massacred and so on. And when they weren't, a lot of them did rethink what was happening. So, but even there was a different. They were evil, but it was a different mindset. So, do you leave? I'm curious the effect on you. You're a Canadian, which vies.
Dual.
Or you're dual, all right. Well, at least that part is like New York. Canada is like a large New York in its politics, with the exception of Alberta.
And Stephen Harper.
And Stephen Harper, God bless him. May he live till 120. By the way, I have a great joke for you. In Jewish life, one says you should live till 120, right? Many of you have heard that even. Are there any Gentiles here? That was a joke. The capital punishment. I really did. Anyway, so Jews say you should live till 120. So here's the question. Let's say somebody does. What do you wish him on his 120? And the answer is, have a good day. I just got a kick. You did not get a kick out of that. What are you going to do? But I am curious the effect on you, Canadian student, or dual, fine, with hope for mankind and hope for peace and so on, and then see a world, and you know what's despairing? It's not just the celebration of death, it's the lying. Mm-hmm. Lying is a, I mean, was he talking to you, the head of Palestinian media?
Yeah.
The man lied to your face.
That's why we did a montage.
Yes, that's right. That was extremely well done, and that's why you folks laughed before even seeing the montage. Oh, we never incite anything in Palestinian media. We just deliver the weather 24/7. That's despairing. Did that affect you too?
Well, yeah, but what I do find encouraging and why I focus on children when I speak about terrorism is because I think the only way we're going to find a consensus between Muslims and non-Muslims, between the left, right, pro-Palestinian, pro-Israeli, is when we focus on the children. And everyone can agree that a child, a Muslim child, is an innocent party. And frankly, if we can't come to that conclusion, then I really have no hope for the future. But I think we do, because even when I spoke to Palestinian adults who otherwise were okay with suicide terror against a civilian population, were not okay with the use of young children as suicide bombers. So I truly believe that if we put a plebiscite, or if we empowered the mothers, the Palestinian mothers, and if they felt free to speak out without being threatened by monsters like Zachariah Zubeidi, they would say that they do not support this tactic. So my hope is that...
Only if they live in New York. That's the problem. Living where they live, I would love that to be true. But after everything that you've seen, the very least that can come out of this is that the mentality is so different that we have to admit it's different.
Yes, of course it's different, except the base consensus can be found when you focus on children and when you focus on innocent Muslim children.
Look at your
Even
own
the most
film.
pro-Palestinian people will say to you, yes, of course Palestinian children are innocent, because that's their cause, that's what they're fighting for. When you confront the United Nations that claims to be the protectorates of the Palestinian children, if you confront them, well, surely you should be outraged then by the premeditated murder of these children by their own community. There's no way they're going to publicly admit that it's
You're projecting yourself onto these people.
Yes. Yes.
We're based in the Middle East. I lived in the Middle East for years. You're still a naive Westerner.
Yes.
I've spoken to the parents myself, and them telling me that they have a problem with the use of their own children, and the question being, where do I find the glimmer of hope, my complete pessimist? That's where I find it, in the Muslims, and it may be a fringe minority that agrees that children are innocent. But that's
Let me offer a thought here, and okay, hold on one second. I agree with their passion, and I thank you for your film. I mean, one can live with both facts here. You've done a real service, and our differences, and I share that difference. Our differences with you are our differences with you. I rather differ with you, and you make this film, than agree with you when nobody made that film. So I keep that. I'll tell you where the differences are. It is irrelevant that any given, those mothers who lament the death of their 13-year-old also lament the death of their 30-year-old son or daughter. I mean, to the extent that they lament. The age does not make them lament less. As a parent of children running from 30 to 14, I lament less the death of my 30-year-old. No parent thinks that way. So the age is, and here is my final argument. Certainly you're going to have all the time you want to respond. If you don't care about the murder of Jewish 12-year-olds, it is unlikely that the age of innocents dying will bother you.
Let me give you an example. The Taliban is recruiting very, very young children. Now, when a 6-year-old, and I'm sure everybody heard about this, outwit the Taliban, the 6-year-old was recruited, told that his explosive belt would spray flowers, but the kid knew there was something off. He went and he turned himself in, okay? Now, the Afghan army in Karzai, what they did is they paraded him for the media. And what did the Taliban do? They denied that they recruited 6-year-old children, because the Taliban and other terrorists are very aware of the hearts and minds battle. And they know that there is a significant portion of the Muslim population, even though they're not speaking out, that will not support them if they recruit children as young as 6 years old.
But they're educating their children.
Okay. All right, listen. You have your view, I share your view, she has her view. There are so many other issues to raise. Anyway.